Hi everybody, welcome back to Charming Data. This tutorial I'm very excited about because it could potentially save you weeks of research on how to connect your Dash app to a live database. We are going to create this app and connect it to a live database called Postgres. So now if you actually are a user and you want to add information, I can actually save it to Postgres, to our live database, and then it will show here in the bar chart below. And when I refresh it, it will show up again. The iPhone is here. So last week we created a similar app, but we would only save it to an Excel sheet. This week we're saving it to a live database. So anytime data changes, column changes, the row information changes, anything, as soon as you save it to Postgres, the data will be saved. So this tutorial I'm going to divide into three different sections. The first section is going to be how to install and download and create a Postgres database on your computer. So you can actually play around with it, test it, and manipulate the data before you upload it to the web. The second section is going to be connect the Postgres database online or create an online Postgres database. So now it's live, it's out there on the web, and you can make your app function with a URL that is connected to a Postgres that's on Heroku. The third section is actually going over the code, much of which we built last tutorial. I'm going to go over line by line or most of the lines so you understand how the code was changed in order to connect to a live database. You can go below the video and you can go into the video layout and skip to any section you want. You can watch section 3 without section 1 and 2 if you want to understand the code, but I would really recommend watching section 1 first and then section 2 because they build off on top of each other. All right. Don't forget below the video, open all the links and the code up so you can follow along, and so you can have this beautiful checklist right here that you can take with you after the video, where you can install your own database on your computer or on Heroku even after this tutorial is over. So I'm going to give this to you as well to download. And if you have any questions, please let me know under the video. If you like this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe, so each week you'll get a notification of a new video that I'm posting on this topic. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is PostgreSQL database on your computer, section 1. We'll do this later, the section 2, like I said, right here, Postgres database on your Heroku app. But let's do this first section because it's necessary. All right, so the first thing you want to do is you want to download and install Postgres to your computer, specifically Postgres, this one, pgadmin4. This is how you can control your Postgres from your own computer. So to download, just open these two links right here. You see these two links, and you have the download here. You can download from whichever version you want, the Windows or Mac, and this is the guide. So in case this doesn't appear in a few years, I'm just going to go scroll through it so you can see what it says. I'm not going to download and install because I already did that twice. And then because it's very, very easy. All you have to do is download it, execute it, and this is all the instructions of how you can execute it. All you have to do is install into a certain drive. I will keep this drive as a default drive. Uncheck this. There's only about 4 more steps. Choose a regular default directory here. I wouldn't change that unless you know what you're doing. Choose your own password. Obviously, don't forget it because you'll be screwed like me if you forget it. Keep this port 5432 again, unless you know what you're doing, because you're gonna need this port later when you input some data. These are some advanced options. I just kept it at default. Ready to install. Next, and then just install. So that's it. Take the time. It takes about 7-8 minutes. Install it, and you're ready to go. All right. So once you have it installed, let's go to part 2. set up our local server, and we're going to create a database to test locally. So now, after we set up this server, we can use our code to test the database and the connection before we actually move it online, because it takes a lot more time to deploy things, our app, online. So this is a big advantage. So let's follow these instructions. Open pgadmin4. Let's make this smaller, actually. Okay, so we just opened it because it's right here. 2B, click on Add New Server. So let's go to the dashboard right here. So either Add New Server here, or just right-click on this, Create, and add New Server. All right. So we're going to go here. Let's make this smaller so we can see. And then complete values like in the images below. So this images, I'll call this name, let's call it my local server, because this is going to be my local server. You can call it whatever you want, but I will just, for now, just stick to this until you know what you're doing, and then you can change names and change anything you want. All right. And then go down here. The next instruction is go to Connections tab. So we'll go to the Connections tab. Host name, call it localhost, like that. Leave it as 5432 because that's probably the port you use to install it. It should stay Postgres, remain Postgres, and then choose your password. So just make sure you're using the password that you use to install Postgres. I think this was mine. Let's double check. Great, I have it. And now you see my local server. So now to E, left side of the page, click to open servers, then open my local server. So we open my local server, right click on database 1. Let's go to the database. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Where is database 1? Oh, I already created this and I deleted it, so we'll do it again. We're going to delete this table so you can see how we do it from the very beginning. So we're going to click on, let's even delete the test so you see it from the very beginning. All right, so you click on database 1, right click, and then hit create, right? Database create. And then call your database test. We're just going to call this our test database and save. And we've just created our test database. Now open the test database as it says here. Open schemas right here. Right click on tables right here and click on create table. We're going to create our first table. Instead of creating it with our code, we're going to create our first table and then import the columns with a CSV document. So here's how we create our first table. Let's call it, name your table product list. Let's call it product list. This is very important. Remember this word product list because we're going to use it in our code. If you name it a different name, just remember it because we're going to use it in our code. And then under the columns tab, create the columns that you need. So here you can, obviously you're going to create it manually and then insert data into there. We are going to insert data using an Excel sheet. So you have to create the columns that your Excel sheet has. In this case, our Excel sheet has 4 columns, which is going to be this: phone, sales, version, and price. All right, so let's go there. Back there. Okay, so we'll create phone, and this will be text. It has to be text field, and I usually want a primary key. Here it doesn't really matter because we're going to call information from a CSV document. Version is going to be text as well, and 2 more. We need price. It's going to be an integer. Oops. And we're going to need sales. If you do primary key phone, you will be able to manually enter data into the data table within Postgres. But it doesn't really matter because in this case, because our CSV again is going to override that. It's going to cancel the primary key for now. Okay, so we created the columns. remember save. Remember the columns are like the ones in the CSV document. And now we have our product list. So if we go to product list right here, right click and view edit data, we'll see that we created our columns right here. Phone, version, price, and sales. But there's no data in there. So I created an Excel sheet. Let me find it. This is the Excel sheet, and you see it's called product list, just like the name we gave to the test data table. And these are the 4 columns that we're going to use: price, version, phone, version, price, sales. And this is the order. Make sure that we have the right order: phone, version, price, sales. So it's in the right order. So all we're going to do now, we have 4 rows here. We're just going to import those 4 rows into the table. So go into the product list table you created, right click, import export, and we'll see that this is according to the checklist that I gave you in number 4 right here. Add product list, import export. You want to import this instead of export. You want to find the file name. Let's look for it. Here it is, product list CSV. Select. It's a CSV. It's not an Excel sheet. Sorry, because you can only do CSV. Header change to yes, and delimiter put in comma. That's all you need. And then hit OK. And then you'll see it started and it's successfully completed. So now just refresh, go to the tables, right click, refresh, and then go to the product list table that you created, view edit all rows, and you'll see that you have basic information in there of the rows that we had on the CSV sheet. So now we're going to connect our app to this, or later we'll do that, and you'll see that these rows come up on our computer. Okay, so this was stage 4. We did the product list, we do view edit, perfect. So we just finished section 1. We created a Postgres database on our computer. Later in section 3, we'll see how the code connects to this database on our computer, and we can manipulate it and change the data live. All right, section 2. Postgres database on Heroku app. So let's just follow instructions here. So the first thing to do, log into your Heroku account. So we're going to log into our account. This is my account. I have 2 apps there, and I'm going to create a new app. Let's do this all together, and let's call it create new app right here. And then let's call it, instead of phone soul, let's call it something else. Let's call it company sales available. Great. So we have company sales. I'm going to put this here in our Word document. So I'll update this. Company sales. And then create app. And then click on the resources and search for Postgres under add-ons. So we're going to go into resources. Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see. Resources in our app. Go to, and here on add-ons, search for Postgres. We don't have it, so now we're going to create this Postgres on Heroku. And then I'm going to use a free version, of course, and then I'm just going to provision. And my Heroku has been created, my Heroku database. Now we just have to link it, so click on it. Let's make this a little bit smaller again. Okay, so we created it. Now it says here in number 9, go into Postgres database, click settings, and then click on view credentials. Settings, and then view credentials. So you're going to need all this information in order to create or to link it to your server on your computer, and then on your code as well. So let's see what we're doing here. Number 10, open the PG admin 4, the Postgres admin, and then go to the upper left side of the page, right here. Right click on servers and create server. So now we're going to create another server, which is for Heroku database server. Under the general tab, call it Heroku page server. Not page, but Postgres server. You can call it whatever you want, but it's easier if you just call it this way so you can follow along. And then is there anything else? Under connections tab, in step number 12, now this is important. The host name address should be a copy paste of the host value in step 9. What does this mean? The host name address, what you should copy paste into here would be the host value in step 9. So step 9, when I say, is always refers to this, the view credentials. So the host value in step 9 is this. So we're going to take the host value, copy it, make sure I copy it, and just paste it here. Perfect. And then the maintenance database value should be copy paste of the database value. So where's maintenance? Postgres. So right here, instead of Postgres, we need the database value of step 9. Database right here is this. So we'll copy this and we will put this in here. Perfect. And then step 14, the username value should be the copy paste of user. So let's go to user, copy paste this into user. As you can see, we're leaving this 5432 because that's what we had initially. And the password doesn't have to be the same password, but I think I will have it as the same password. Wait, no, sorry. The password is the same password for value 9 as well. So you can't create your own password. This is an automatic password that Heroku gives you. So make sure to not make that mistake that I just was about to make. Save password. I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to hit save. Perfect. So we just created our connection to Heroku Postgres server. Now open it like it says on step 17, and here in step 18 there's like 1,859 databases. So don't scroll down looking for a database, so it's going to take you probably a year and a half to find it. So just go back to step 9, go back to your database name, Control C, and then go back here and do Control F. So and then just paste so you can find the database. And there we go. We just found the database on the Heroku connection. Open it. And once you open it, go to schemas in step 19. You will see schemas. Right click on tables and click to create table. Schemas. Click to create table. Where is it? Schemas, public, tables. So we're going to right click. Let's open this, see if there's anything there. I doubt it. Let's double check. Nothing. Okay, so we're going to right click and then create table. And here we're just going to repeat the same information that we did. We're going to repeat step 3B, 3C, and step 4 from the section above, from section 1. Remember, Postgres on your computer. So let's go back up and repeat section 3B, 3C, and 4, which is create this product list. Because I'm going to have the same name for this database online. I'm going to call it product list. I'm going to repeat the columns. Remember, we had 4 different columns. Phone version and then we put save, and voila, we have our product list, the same table, but now it's on our Heroku server and not in addition to having it on our test server on our computer. So we have the same table but on 2 different servers. Let's import the CSV, so we have some kind of information in there, so we start with something and not 0 information. Import, export, do the same thing. Remember, you have to export, you have to look for your CSV document, product list CSV, select it, header yes, and then delimiter is a comma, and then just click OK. And remember to refresh. It took me about a week to understand that if I don't click refresh, I'm not going to see it. So I just saved some of you a week. And then click on product list, and I think really there's a lag here. Edit rows, and let's see all rows. Good. So we have our 4 initial rows that we had on our CSV document. Great. Now we don't need our CSV document anymore. We don't need an Excel sheet. Everything is going to be tied to the app and to our code. So let's see what's next. Did we finish? We finished 19, Postgres database, and now we are on 20. So let's go back. We only have 3 more steps. 3 more steps. So step 20, go back to your code, and inside your terminal, let's go back to our code right here, and go back to our code here, which is the code under the video, and inside the terminal here, pip install psychopg2, because this is the library that you need for your for the connection with Heroku and a real database online. I'm not going to do this here because I have all the libraries installed in this environment. So take a look at this. Let me zoom in here. These are the libraries you need for this app. This is from part 1 of the video last week. You need NumPy, Pandas, Plotly 4.8, Dash, Psycho2, PsychoPG2, Flask, and GUnicorn. So make sure you have these libraries installed because they're all needed for the app. If you already have it this way, then you don't need to install this. Okay, so once all these are installed, either through the content environment or just pip install each one of them, and go into the terminal here and just say pip install pandas, pip install plotly, pip install and all that, and it's exactly the same. So once you have all the libraries installed, inside your code, add your Heroku database URI found in step 9. So let's go to Postgres code. I'm going to close this. Okay, so right here, let's X this out. And let's X this back in, not X, hashtag, make this bigger. And this is the app-server.config URI. And what you want to add here is actually the URI from step 9. So step 9, remember, is right here are credentials. So this is the URI. So just copy this and just put it inside your code. So let's put this inside our code right here. Perfect. So now we have it. Oh, this is way too long, so let me just cut it into 2. Great. So now you have all that, and now we can save it. And what is the next step? The next step is to deploy your app to Heroku. I'm not going to deploy the whole app to Heroku right now because it takes about 10 minutes. So I'm going to just fast forward. But if you have any questions about deploying your app to Heroku, look at the video above. It shows the tutorial that I created a couple of weeks ago on how to deploy your first app to Heroku and Dashplot. This step takes about 10 minutes. All you really need is a proc file, you need a requirements text, and you need a get ignore, and that's it. And you can upload it. It takes about 5-10 minutes, and you're ready to go. And voila, let's click on this. Just deployed everything to our Heroku app. This opened up, and now, as you can see, this is creating a bar chart of all the data in there. If I want to add a row, because my company just sold Galaxy phones let's do S19. I don't know if that even exists. Let's hope it does. S19, the price was an exorbitant $1,500, and we sold 5,000 of those. Enter. If I save to Postgres right now, I'll see a message that is saved. And if not, let's see that it actually saved. We can go into our Postgres admin on our computer. And here, this is already, we're inside, remember, this is the product list that's inside our main database in our Heroku server. So let's go there again. I lost it. There we go. Okay, and now all you have to do, make sure to hit refresh, because if it doesn't, it won't load. Refresh it. This is just for you to see. It's going to load, but it's just for you to see. And then edit the data table. And then you'll see that we added another Galaxy phone, S20, S19, should be right here as the 5th row, S19. So now, if I go to Dash and I click, where is it, S19, and I already clicked. So now if I refresh, because I built the code in a way that if I refresh, it's saved, and it now shows us 10K for Galaxy phones. I can also delete this S19, save it to Postgres, and once I save it, if I refresh, it will it's saved. So now there's only 5,000 sales in Galaxy. All right. So this is one way to check that it was the database is working, because you can see that it works live. Oh, you can also add columns if you want, because you'll see from the last database, last part 1 tutorial, you can add columns, or you can play around with the data in here. So I made a mistake. Maybe it's not S20, it's S9, S10, or S19, S1, and then you can save this information. If you don't save it, it's not going to save. You got to make sure to save to Postgres, and then when you reload, it's gonna save, because it's pulling from the Postgres database. One more thing to finish section 2. We also saw how we created a Postgres online database, but we also created the Postgres database on our computer. So to access that, you will see here. Let's access our code. Let's go in here. Let's close this. To access that, you want to hashtag this out and hashtag this in. So this is going to be for our Postgres computer or computer server database. You will need to put Postgres. This is exactly how it looks like, because this is how we set it up. A local host, remember we called it. Our database is called, data table is called test, our database, sorry. And then your password, which I'm not going to show you. I think this is it. Make sure I got it right. Save. And now if I run it, run CRUD dash right here, now I can run it on my own browser and make sure that it works. Let's double check. Let's open it. Okay. So we would have the original. This refers to, don't get confused. This refers to one mistake I'm getting here is because I am, there we go, it works. So this refers to not this database that's on the server, but it refers to the local server that we have. So you would close this, you would go to the local server that we created right here, open it, sorry, like this, test database, and the table is right here. So this refers to this product list table. Let's see all the rows, and this might be a little bit different because this is a database on our computer. And the great thing about database on our computer is that we can test it and play around with it before we actually put it online. So here we have S20 and S10, and if we go to our code on our browser, you'll see that we have S20, S10, and if we add a row, let's call this new phone, whatever that's called, version 110, crazy version. Price is going to be very low because it's going to be for something that I can buy, and then the sales is going to be like 5,000 of them because people loved it. So make sure to save to your Postgres computer database, and then if I refresh it, you'll see that the new phone is here, and you'll also see that the new phone is in this database. Refresh this database, data table, sorry. Open it up again, like this, and you'll see that now we have our new phone right here. See? All right, let's go into step number 3 and review the code so we can see how it's connected to the database and what it actually does. So this is very similar from part 1. Most of this code is from video part 1, so I'm not going to go over line by line, but only the changes that we made. So to connect to a Flask server, you would use this line of code. Then you would use this line of code, server equals server, and we'll go over this at the end. It's for dash. This is just, this is not that important. You can play around, you can change it to true. It's just something that's built by default into SQLAlchemy that tracks modifications, but it gives me a warning every time, so I just put it into false. this I just went over. This is to connect to your, oh, this is my password. I gotta change this so you don't see it on the video because it's my password. So this is for your computer database. Remember, if you want to put this online for other users on a URL on the live web, you hashtag this out and you hashtag this in, because this is going to be for the Heroku database. All right. So we're going to do this online, and sorry, not online, but on our browser. So I'm going to leave this in there like that. Okay. And now we're going to do db equals, we're going to create an SQLAlchemy instance with the app server. We'll go over this in a sec later. And in the layout, the main thing I changed is the Postgres data table, the ID, is a div right now. I don't have the data table in the layout yet because the data table is going to pull from Postgres that I have on my computer server on the database that's on my computer. So I'm not gonna have any layout at the beginning because I wanted to pull it through a callback. So it's just gonna be a div. And now I'm gonna do exactly that. I'm gonna use the callback. I'm gonna say take the n intervals of this right here, the interval that we created, the interval component. This will update every activated once a week or whenever the page is refreshed, because I don't want it to constantly update and pull the database from the data table from Postgres on my computer. I just wanted to do it whenever the page is refreshed, or just once a week or once a year. It doesn't matter. So as soon as this is activated, because dash activates the callback immediately as it loads the page, as soon as this is activated, just call the product list. That's the name of our data table. Call it into a pandas data frame, read the SQL table product list with the DB engine. You got to connect to the Flask engine, and then call it DF. So it's going to be a pandas data frame. And now I'm going to return into this div, Postgres data table children, the children of this div. Remember, the children of this div was right here, Postgres data table. This equals children equals empty list. So I'm going to return into the data table. And this is going to be the data table that you've seen from part 1 as well. The whole thing right here. The only difference is now I'm going to say take the data frame from right here, from the Postgres data, put it into the records, put the data in there, and then for X and columns, just create these columns. So the first callback creates a data table from Postgres once a week or whenever the page is refreshed. This column I did not change. It's like in video part 1. We're just adding columns here. This callback I didn't change either. We're just adding rows. This I changed a little bit just so you can have, you know what, let's get back to this in a sec. And the only thing I changed here in our last callback is saving the database into Postgres. So this looks exactly all the way from here all the way down here. It looks exactly the same as part 1, video part 1. The only difference is that now whenever the save to Postgres button is clicked, which is this button right here. Whenever this button is clicked, I'm going to tell my app to actually take the product list, connect to the engine, take the product list table, and pass it take the whole data from the data table on the app, call it PG, and then pass the PG to SQL product list table. So in other words, what it's doing, whenever let's delete this row, and whatever I do here, I save to Postgres. Whenever I click on this, it's going to take this data table, call it PG, the object PG, and then it's going to read it into the SQL data table into Postgres. So it's going to read it into here because this is called Postgres. So now, if I refresh, is going to load without that new phone row that we had before. You see? And why is it going to do that? Because we said here that whenever you refresh interval, whenever the interval is activated, then it's going to call the data table. It's going to create a pandas data frame from the Postgres database that's on my computer. All right. The last part is this one that we just skipped. This is how we're creating our graph. So you have two ways of creating your graph. You can either hashtag this out and just create your graph by using our data that's on the data table. So just take the data from our table right now on the app, put it into a pandas data frame, and then just use the X column, which will be the phone will be the X column, the sales will be the Y column. We create a fig and we output it into my graph. So anytime, if we do it this way, anytime we change something here, add a row, then it would change the figure down here. But I don't want to do it this way. I want to do it in a different way. I want to do it this way. This way, I'm actually pulling from Postgres. So I'm not going to change the bar chart every time the data table changes on my app. I'm only going to change it every time the Postgres database it uploads. Doesn't really matter. You can do it however you want. The easiest way is probably to do it this way, with this and not with this. But I did want to show you a little bit of just a different way of doing it, because this has a lot of advantages, not here, but in other cases, because it allows you to use SQLAlchemy to manipulate, filter, and add to your Postgres data table directly within your code. So to do that, you use this line of code. For this to happen, for this to work, it calls product.phone. You need this, the very beginning that we skipped. You need all this. You need to create a class. You can call it whatever you want. I call it product. You have to give it a table name, which is product list, because that's our table name. And then you have to name the columns that are in there, and you always need a primary key. So even if you don't have a primary key on your Postgres server, on your computer, on Heroku, you have to put true on one of them. And then you have to do this. See that they're capitalized here, the column names. And that's it. And once you create this class, you can actually manipulate your database within your code. So you can do this. Go all the way down here. You can do. I just gave you one example, but you can do this. You can say DB session query. Now I'm going to query my product class, which is my database. Take the phone column, take the sales column. Now I'm going to say from this object that was created for X in this object, take the phone column, take the sales column, and create an object out of them, and then put them into this Go figure bar chart. This is just a very quick example of SQLAlchemy, because I'm not going to give in this tutorial a session about SQLAlchemy, but I'm going to share this code, and this shares a lot of information of how you can create your SQLAlchemy engine, and how you can go into the metadata of your database, and how you can do different things, like everything that you can do in SQL, you can do with Python alone, using SQLAlchemy. So this would be the SQL version, and this will be the SQLAlchemy version in pure Python. Same thing here. This will be SQL version, and this will be the pure Python version. So in this case, I don't need really SQLAlchemy, because all I'm doing, remember here, is taking, once the page loads, just putting the data table that is on Postgres on my computer on Heroku, and reading it into a pandas data frame and just spitting it out. And the same thing here at the end. I'm just taking the data on my app, and I'm reading it into and I'm replacing it with replacing the whole table with the table that's on replacing the table that I have on my server with this table that I have here. So I don't really need SQL for that, SQLAlchemy. But if I want to filter, add certain buttons, certain data, take away or commit, then I would need to use SQLAlchemy like I'm doing right here, and I would need this as well, this classes right here. So just a brief little tip on SQLAlchemy and how you can play around with things, just so you can get you started. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this this tutorial. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned a lot. If you did, share this video with your friends. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe below. So every week I'll give you a new video of data visualization using Dash by Plotly, where you can create really cool things and learn a lot about the world. Have a good day and